Welcome, everyone, to the 5th episode of our 3rd season of the Bracket Report. It's a production of Delphi Bracketology, and we are sponsored by Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. Joining me today are senior Cade Nelson and junior Nikita Lear. As always, please follow our work on at delphibracketology.com, and then on Twitter. You can follow us at Delphi Brackets. We love to interact with our followers, and we'll start this week, like we do every week, with the State of Indiana report. Go ahead, Cade, with the Boilermakers.
Yeah, so as everyone might know, they took a heartbreaking loss to Indiana at Assembly Hall, and I think that might have been one of the things for Purdue, a young Purdue team that was the hardest, just playing in that tough road environment. But they did lose their perfect road record. Their net is still number 4, so there's no question about that. They're 9-2 in quad 1. And, you know, I think just taking with how perfect all their stats are, just taking a couple of key points from the game, I thought turnovers killed them. And that I thought in the first half, IU just ran the floor really well. Trace Jackson-Davis had a phenomenal game. And I think some people might get mad at Braden Smith for a turnover late in the game. But other than that, Zach Edey had 5 turnovers that would give IU some points down the stretch. So I don't think it was one person or the other for Purdue. I think you have to give the whole IU team credit for being able to shoot well and play great defense. But Purdue has a tough stretch of games coming up. They play IU again. They play Illinois and Northwestern. Luckily, some of those are at Mackey, so they'll have the help of the wonderful Mackey fans. But other than that, you know, everything else is still very solid for Purdue.
Yeah, they stay the number 1 seed overall for us. No change there despite the outcome. But the Indiana Hoosiers, my squad, big game for them because the number 1 team, you defeat the number 1 team home or away, that helps with your resume. And Indiana needed it because they lost a game to Maryland earlier in the week. And this is a resume-defining win for Indiana. Do they still need to do some work? Yes. Indiana right now is a likely 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed, depending on how you would look at the other teams. But that's a really good position compared to where they were after a 1-4 start in the Big Ten. Nikita, we have some other teams in the state of Indiana that are doing well, but probably have to win the tournament. What do you have?
So to start, I have Indiana State. They have won their past 3 games, and they have a record of 16-9. Their past 2 wins was a win at home versus Murray State, and then win at Evansville. Then we have Ball State, who also won their past 3 games with a record of only 16-7, and won at home against Eastern Michigan, but away at Bowling Green. Notre Dame has lost their past game against Wake Forest, but they did win at Louisville versus Louisville, with a record of 10-13.
So those teams are likely to have to win their conference tournament to get in. But, man, Indiana State and Ball State are playing good basketball. So those are teams to keep an eye on. Now we're going to go to our moving up and moving down segment. Cade, who you got that is moving up our bracket?
My team that's moving up the bracket this week is a Big Ten team in Maryland. They're 5-1 in their last 6 games, with 4 of those being wins at home. They also had 3 wins against Quad 3 teams, so the stretch of games that they were playing weren't necessarily the hardest games ever or the greatest wins. They do have 1 win at home against Indiana, which is a low-tier Quad 1, and that was over those last 6 stretches, or those last 6 games. So they're 7-7 in Quads 1 and 2 now. With a net of 28, and they have no losses outside of Quad 1. So with all those things being combined, I think they have a really nice resume, and they're 4th in the conference right now. So closing out the year, they have 4 games left at home and 4 games left on the road. So I think if they go 2-2 with that stretch of 4 games on the road, they'll have an even better resume, and they might even have a chance at moving up to the 5 or the 6 seed line.
Nikita, who's your team moving up?
So I have Oklahoma State moving up, and they are 5-1 in the last 6 games, with 4 of those 5 being at home. Recently, they do have a 12-strength schedule, which is pretty decent, and a 36 net, which, I mean, it's not the best, but it could be better. And I feel like if they keep working, they might move up even higher. They also are 2-5 on the road, so a couple of those being the last couple games, so that's definitely a big change for them.
They have moved into our bracket somewhere at the 10-11 seed line, maybe the last 4 in at some point, but keep your eye on Oklahoma State. Mine is Virginia Tech, and they're not anywhere on our bracket. They're not in our first 4 out, but they are moving up. They had a key injury, and since that injury, they have beaten Duke. They've beaten Virginia. They have some really nice wins. They don't have a win on the road, and you need to win on the road. So before we're even going to consider Virginia Tech, they got some more work to do inside the ACC conference. But boy, they are moving up fast, and those injuries will take. The NCAA committee will look at them down the road. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Virginia Tech move closer to the bubble here in the next week. So now we got to cover our teams moving down. Cade?
My team moving down this week is, again, in the ACC. It is North Carolina. Throughout the season, they've continued to not take advantage of their Quad 1 opportunities. They're 1-7 in Quad 1, and they're 2-5 on the road. So those are the two, really big things that stand out for me when I look at North Carolina, the way they haven't been able to pick up solid wins or win on the road against maybe a Quad 3 team. They lost to Duke on the road, and they lost to Pitt at home. So that was a couple, tough losses they had to take. So they're 44 in the net now. There are other teams like them with similar resumes, like Duke or Creighton, with not a lot of wins, but they have the solid nets that move them up and keep them on the higher seed lines. So coming up for North Carolina, they have Miami and NC State. They're both ranked. So this is a chance for them to finally get those quality of Quad 1 wins that is very much needed if they want to stay in our bracket right now, because they're a team that might drop.
We had a huge debate this week on where North Carolina was, 10 or 11 line. Nikita?
I have Penn State, and we do not currently have them in the bracket. They've had some tough losses recently, a loss against Purdue, a loss against Wisconsin. They're 2-4 in the last 6 games that they've played, with 1-5 on the road. They also have a non-conference strength of schedule of 275, which is not where we want it to be. They also have a 53 net, which is also very high and not where we want it to be at all. They're not performing well. They need to definitely pick up some wins against Wisconsin again this week and Maryland.
They have a lot of work to do. And mine is Clemson. Clemson right now is the leader of the ACC, which makes them, in a lot of brackets, the automatic qualifier. And there's some thought that if they didn't have that designation, they wouldn't be in the bracket. So there's a team that is moving down. They had a really good early run leading the conference, but they need to get some more wins. They have a good Quad 1 and Quad 2 record, but they need to keep winning in order to stay in the bracket. So coming up, we're going to be sharing our top seeds and some of the tough decisions that we've had to make. So stick with us after the break.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need a managed Wi-Fi service with advanced Blast Wi-Fi. Blast Wi-Fi systems provide ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Available from Mulberry Telecommunications, Blast Wi-Fi systems feature the latest Wi-Fi 6 technology and are equipped with unrivaled bandwidth and 4 times more simultaneous connections, so you can connect tons of devices throughout your home with no lag and no downtime. Plus, with 24/7 support and remote troubleshooting, you can rest assured that Mulberry Telecommunications is always here to help you should any issues arise. It's the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, and it's a blast. Blast Wi-Fi is now included with Mulberry Telecommunications fiber internet packages. Contact Mulberry Telecommunications at 296-2885 today to get started.
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. I'm Brian Tonsoni along with Cade Nelson and Nikita Lear. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at one team right now and share with you kind of how we look at that team, and that is the Missouri Tigers. The Missouri Tigers have a 48 net at the time we were ready for the show. Likely to be an 8 seed, could be a 7 seed, and there's some things that are kind of strong on their resume, but there's also some things that might keep them from moving up even further. Cade, what stands out for you on Missouri's resume?
I think the thing that stands out for me is that they have 3 Quad 1 wins right now, and there's no losses outside of Quad 1. So when you're able to pick up a couple of games in Quad 1 and still have a tough schedule, and then not lose any games that you shouldn't lose, that to me stands out when you talk about scheduling a conference, like your different games, and just playing well in the conference, not being able to lose in Quad 1 or lose outside of that.
So the big thing there is no losses in Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, and Quadrant 4. Their metrics, which are, again, the offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, is what's keeping them down somewhat. They have rankings of 58, 54, 54, and a net ranking of 48, which means their efficiency numbers aren't as good as other teams. But they have some nice wins. The 3 Quad 1 wins and 4 Quad 2 wins make them a team that will definitely be in our bracket. It's just a matter of how high that they will go in the bracket. Nikita, is there something on that resume that stands out or doesn't stand out for you on the Missouri Tigers?
For me, I definitely agree with Cade. I agreed with no losses outside of Quad 1. They have some pretty good wins as well. Their net 48, I mean, that's not the best. It could be better, but it is still up there and still could definitely be a big part of where they're at.
So you mentioned quality of wins. I think that's important too. The number is nice. You want to have numbers of Quad 1s and Quad 2s, but sometimes the quality matters. They've beaten Iowa State, which is either a 2 or a 3 seed, depending on who you talk to. That's a quality win. Defeated Illinois, who's going to be a 6 seed for us in our next bracket. You've beaten Kentucky, who's also in the field. So you might hear us talk about wins against the field. Missouri has 3 wins against the teams that would be in our bracket, and then we compare them to other teams around them. Missouri, for us, is an 8 seed. That they're really close to being a 7 seed. And you may find some bracketologists having them up on the 7 seed line. So we're going to compare them to Duke, to Maryland, and to North Carolina State. Those 4 teams are right around Missouri, so you got to compare them. Duke and Maryland have better metrics, but Missouri has 7 Quad 1 and 2 wins, the same as Maryland. So we're trying to look and find some things. The one thing that is not great for them is their non-conference strength of schedule at 193. I don't think it's a real blemish, but I do think that when you compare that to Duke 51 non-conference, Duke did a better job of scheduling tougher opponents. And if you're in a tie situation, that's where Missouri might not quite move up to a 7 seed line. So Missouri Tigers, an 8 seed. There's some details on there. This is how we talk about every team on these Monday evenings and Tuesday morning discussions. So now let's go into our seed list, our top 4 seed list, and then our teams later on. We'll talk about the bubble. But our first 4 seed line looks like this. Number 1 overall is Purdue. Number 2, Alabama. Those are pretty strong given. Houston, number 1 overall in the net, is our 3rd number 1, and then the debate happens. You have 3 teams. You really can go Kansas, Arizona, Texas. Last night, Kansas beats Texas, so we moved Kansas on the 1 line. Nikita, any thoughts there on your number 1 seed line, either good comments about teams or teams that you want to watch that might be struggling?
Definitely Kansas, very good with beating Texas last night. Definitely think they deserve to move up in that aspect. They also have a strength of schedule of 1 right now. Hardest strength of schedule. That is definitely a very big thing in my mind. And with having no losses outside of Quad 1 losses is also very important to me.
Cade, you asked today in the show, about Arizona, I believe, or we had a discussion about why do people think Arizona should be on the 1 seed line. They're the one team that some people do have. Could you share a little bit of what we talked about with Arizona versus Kansas?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about with Arizona being, in contention for being on the 1 seed line was their quality of wins. I feel like Arizona has been able to keep a high number of wins on their resume, but they've also been able to beat some top-tier teams. So, when you're able to beat those high-quality teams, people can't overlook that. because when you're talking about other teams that are up there on the 1 seed line and you have a team that's on the 2 seed line that's beat all of those teams, there's no way that you are able to, take that off of their resume. And that's to me one of the biggest things that I pushed for Arizona early on. Now I'm not sure if they deserve to be on the 1 seed line because that double-digit net, but like me or anyone else, you can't take away the fact that they beat some top-level teams.
So here's the debate that we do all the time, and we do go back and forth. Cade goes back and forth. Nikita goes back and forth. I go back and forth on where these teams should be, and that's the beauty of doing this. Arizona has Kansas has better numbers. Kansas has 10 quad 1 wins to 6 of Arizona. If you combine quad 1 and 2, Kansas is 14-5 versus 11-2 for Arizona. But Arizona has those better wins, as you said. They've beaten Tennessee, the second net team. UCLA with a net of 5. Creighton net of 16. They have 5 really quality wins, where Kansas, I believe they only have I'm trying to find Kansas here on our sheet. Kansas has 3 quality wins. So, boy, it gets tight. Arizona and Kansas are 2 teams to watch. And I think also Houston doesn't have quite the quality or the numbers, but, boy, they have those metrics. And we'll see what's important in a couple weeks when the NCAA tournament gives out their preview of whether the metrics really matter. If they have Houston on the 1 seed line, that number 1 net will matter. But we chose Kansas this week. But, boy, Arizona and even Texas do have something for the 1 seed line. So now we move to our 2 seed lines. And, of course, Arizona's number 1. Texas was in contention until their loss last night. They still, with a couple of wins, they have 8 quad 1 wins. Tennessee, and then we moved Baylor up. We had a discussion about Baylor, Iowa State, or UCLA. Nikita, last night we talked about moving Baylor up. Do you think that was a good decision, or should we have kept UCLA on the 2 seed line?
I definitely think that was a good decision. Overall, they just have a lot more better qualities than UCLA, the better strength of schedule, the better road wins, the better just wins in general. Like, they're playing a lot better. They're playing good, clean ball, and UCLA has just been really rough recently.
Cade, thoughts? That's another tough decision, right? We have Baylor, we have Iowa State that we could have moved up, and we could have kept UCLA on that last 2 seed line. I've even seen Kansas State, who we have as a 4. Your thoughts there on the 2 seed line? I think the top 3 are pretty safe on that line, but Baylor, Iowa State, UCLA. Your thoughts?
Yeah, bringing up UCLA and Baylor and Iowa State, all these teams combined, I think if you put tape over all the names and just look at just not even the road record or the strength of schedule or anything like that, just the quad 1 wins or quad 2 wins, I think you see UCLA's resume, and they have a resume that looks like a 6 seed line team. With only 3 quad 1 wins, I'm not sure that you can move them up any higher than what they're at. Although they do have a 5 net, that's the thing for me that keeps UCLA up so high. But, when you're not getting the quantity that everyone else has above you, I'm not sure you can really keep up with that if you're not, beating these good teams.
So we go to the 3 seed line, Iowa State, UCLA, Virginia, and Xavier. The team that we discussed a lot was Virginia. They have 4 quad 1 wins. They're 4-4 with no bad losses, no losses outside of that. They have a 15 net. You have some teams like Kansas State with 5 quad 1 wins sitting in the 4 seed line. Go back to you, Cade, real quick about Virginia. We like them as a 3 seed. Should Kansas State be there maybe?
Yeah, that's a tough one for me because if you put tape over the lines again, it's really close with the amount of wins that they have. And I think when you're trying to decide between 2 teams, it comes down to, just the bare numbers. And when Kansas State has that 21 net, obviously it's not as good as Virginia's. Also, Virginia's road record is 5-3, which is better than Kansas State at 3-4. So I think you got to give credit to Virginia for winning on the road and playing well against all of the teams that they've played.
So, Nikita, I'm going to come to you and give you a little test on air. You can say bad things about me later for putting you on the spot. But Kansas State is a 4 seed along with Gonzaga, Marquette, and St. Mary's. There is one number on Kansas State line that we really believe keeps them on the 4 seed line and doesn't move them up over Virginia. What's that number?
I feel like it's the non-conference strength of schedule just because it's in the 200s, close to 300. That's not a 3 seed line number.
All right, so you pass, Nikita. That's really horrible of me to do to you without preparing. I didn't tell her that we were going to do that. I just kind of wanted to throw that out. But that shows you how much time these people put into it. She was even talking with us at work. Let's not tell her work. But last night, Kansas State has a 291 non-conference strength of schedule. I think that keeps them out. St. Mary's, Cade, I'm going to throw you that. Are we serious? I know they got some losses, but boy, they beat Gonzaga. They have some good net. Should they deserve to be on that 4 seed line?
I think I'm dead serious about St. Mary's because, when you have the number 6 net in the country, I think when you're and you have at least 2 quad 1 wins, being in a smaller conference, I think that's big to see that you're playing that well and getting good wins. They're 4-0 on the road, so they have a perfect road record. That combined with their net, to me, is just phenomenal being in such a small conference. So I think, there might even be a conversation to have them move up, but they're definitely not moving down anytime soon.
And UConn and TCU are heavy 4 seed. At times we've had UConn on the 4 seed line. Those teams are considered there as well. UConn has a 7 net, which speaks 4 seed line to us. So that's a team that we may move. But you are watching the Bracket Report, a production of Delphi Bracketology. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Big Ten.
Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa. My goodness.
122.60 for Penn.
What a swim!
6 of them.
Ball here. Harris scores. With 19 seconds.
Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it.
Has to finish.
You get a layup, take it, and an and one. Out of here.
You can't get enough of them.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This might
This
even
is
be
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
You are watching the Bracket Report, a production of Delphi Bracketology, sponsored by Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo. It's now time for some Big Ten talk. We are situated in the state of Indiana, so we're going to talk the Big Ten. Purdue, number 1 overall seed. Rutgers, 5 seed. Indiana, a 5 seed. Illinois and Iowa on the 6 seed line. Maryland, 7 seed line. Michigan State's probably either an 8 or a 9 on our bracket coming out this evening. Northwestern on the 9 seed line. Wisconsin, we had a discussion whether they should be in or not. They're probably in the last 4 in discussion on the 11 seed line. And as you heard earlier from Nikita, Penn State's out. Michigan is a team to watch because they are really coming on strong, and they have some quad 1 opportunities up and down their roster. They got a lot of work to do, but watch out for Michigan. And Ohio State's now under 500. They are going to be real difficult to keep in the bracket. So now we go to the bubble talk. You want to know who's in and who's out at the back end. For us, this changed a lot this week, Monday and Tuesday. So our last 4 in right now are Boise State, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Memphis in some order. We're going to look at that before we put the bracket out tonight of what's the exact order. But these teams all have some work to do. Wisconsin has the best quad wins there. Anybody on that list, Cade, that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would talk about North Carolina and Memphis. They only have combined 2 wins against the field, and what I mean by that is for our bracket that we have, they've only beat 2 teams that we have in, like, on the seed lines or whatever. And to me, that just shows that, you're not getting quality wins or quantity. If anything, North Carolina's 1-7 in quad 1, so when you're not winning any games and you don't have that net that can, hold you up, I don't think there's any reason you should really be in the bracket. Obviously, It's North Carolina, and, it's a big-name team. But when you're not winning against your competition, then what's it really matter if you're just winning the non-conference games that are easy?
North Carolina is a struggle for us because I think the best thing you said, Cade, was put tape over these names. If you don't look at the name, North Carolina is probably where they're at, last 4 in, or maybe even out. Their best win in quad one is against Ohio State, which is under 500. Nikita, any of these teams you want to talk about?
Definitely agree with Cade 100% on North Carolina and Memphis. Wisconsin, I think that even though they are the last four in, they still should be there. They have been working pretty decently hard recently. They also have an 8 strength of schedule, so they do have harder games, and they're 4-6 in their quad one. So not where we would like them to be, but definitely think they should be somewhere in that last four.
And Wisconsin lost 3 games in a row without their best player. And so despite their 77 net, I do think the committee is going to give them some consideration. So we'll see. They should win some games here. Again, they have Penn State and I think Nebraska coming up this week. Very vital for them to win some games. So the first teams out, Arkansas, Seton Hall, Oregon, and Florida are our first teams out. And we might be missing the boat on Arkansas. They have a 29 net. They've been ranked. But they just don't have the resume, and some people have them as high as a 9 in the bracket world and the 10 seed line. We have them out. Nikita, your thoughts? Should Arkansas be out, or if you want to talk about any of these other 4 teams, which team might be the best team to move in?
Honestly, Arkansas should completely be out. They're just overall, like, the only thing going for them is their net right now. Like, that's the only thing decent. They're 1-5 in road wins. That is not good at all because they're going to be playing on the road a lot. They need to be able to win on the road. Also, they're only 1-5 in quad one. They're not getting those good wins that they need. They're not getting the quality and the quantity.
Cade, your thoughts on our first 4 out?
Yeah, I think a team that might be flying under our radar or anyone else's radar really is Florida. They don't have any bad losses. They have a great win over Tennessee along with wins over Mississippi State and Missouri, so they're getting wins against the field. They also have a decent strength of schedule and a decent net. Their net is 43, and their strength of schedule is 16. So I think they've scheduled tough, and they've been able to win against the bracket with that very significant win over Tennessee. I think that is one of the things that could boost them up, even though they don't really have a lot going for them. I think with some teams it only takes one great win, and that is what Florida has.
So now it's time to watch some games. So we're going to go to Nikita and share your game of the week.
So my game of the week is Clemson versus North Carolina. I definitely think it is going to be a big game that we need to pay attention to. Clemson is 18-6 overall right now, and North Carolina is 15-8. They both need wins. Clemson definitely needs a road win here. They're 4-3 on the road, but North Carolina could also use another home win with 10-1 at the moment.
And Cade, who are you watching this week?
This week I'm watching Creighton and Seton Hall. Creighton plays at Seton Hall. And Creighton doesn't really have a lot of solid wins on the road. They're 2-4 on the road, so any wins would help them. It wouldn't be a quad one win for them, being that Seton Hall's net is 51, but they do need a road win. For Seton Hall, they're on the bubble, and I think Seton Hall is a team that could definitely move in. So with this quad one win, it would move them to 6-8 in quads 1 and 2 combined. They have a solid strength of schedule and wins on the road. So with all of that combined, I think that could move them over a North Carolina or a Boise State that, doesn't have the number of wins that we would like to see. And with Seton Hall having those quality of wins, I think that can definitely move them up.
Seton Hall is definitely a team to watch on that bubble. For me, it's Duke versus Virginia. Duke needs a win. They got smoked last night against Miami by close to 20 points, and they're sliding. They've gone from a 5 down to a 7 seed. They need to find some wins, and that would be a great win. Virginia, we talked about, they're a 3 or 4. They're fighting for a seed position. So you beat a Duke at home, as you're expected to be, you'll be the favorite. Then that helps your resume stay on that 3 seed line. So that'll do it for this episode of the Bracket Report. Thanks to ISC Sports Network for hosting our show. Thanks to Coca-Cola Bottling of Kokomo for sponsoring us. Please contact us on Twitter at Delphi Brackets. We'll try to get back with you on your comments. Follow us on our website, DelphiBracketology.com. We'll have a seed list and a bracket list out Tuesday night after the show. I'm Brian Tonsoni for Cade Nelson and Nikita Lear. We thank you for watching, and until next week, may your favorite team win games, win those quad 1-2 games, and win some on the road.